right. The channel is live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adventure on So Many Levels. We're going to play some Dungeons and Dragons.
Woo!
Dang.
I can't wait.
I'm Christiana Ellis, and I am the Dungeon Master. Our players tonight, Paul Fisher as Zinhorn Windborn,
Good.
Jenny Meltzer as Zaleen,
Hello.
Mark Kilfoyle as Vertigo,
Think of the research possibilities.
and Starla Hodgson as Carolina Swift.
Hello, friends.
And the possibility of hearing a dog in the background, which is Rocket the Corgi, who is mad about something. When last we left our heroes, the Pocket Protectors, they had traveled back to the Temple of Marushka, which sits on the mainland coast, facing what you know now to be the magically sealed away city of Dinuthair. You have met here someone you once knew only as the adversary, you now know to be one Percival Cankers, and you have come to a tentative and wary agreement that you will together perform this ritual that will allow you to enter this magical seal around Dinuthair. And so there's a bit of business to wrap up there just logistically. But when we last left, you were escorting Trandinel, the knight, one of Tilitha's allies and one of the individuals responsible for sealing Dinuthair away in the first place, back to where he would sit once again at Tilitha's side. Rupino, the artificer, also planning to do that once he finishes preparing this ritual for you. Sorry, I'm just making sure Rocket is not getting into trouble. Roll initiative. When so right now you know Percival to be very impatient, but after some argument you persuaded him that you did in fact have business in the temple to attend to, and that you were not just trying to think of a way to trick him, and he reluctantly agreed to wait, but you may imagine that he won't be happy waiting for long. So, tell me, Pocket Protectors, what do you want to do? Are you...
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I believe Zaleen and I were on our way inside. Who was staying behind with Rubino?
I think Vertigo was because of the to observe or help with the ritual.
I don't know that we even went back to the tower to talk to Rubino because
those of you
we
going
were outside
inside
with the
yeah.
adversary.
Yeah. So those of you going inside the temple, which was Trandinel and Zaleen at the very least, I believe that Lynn was going that way too, did not go back into the tower first. I believe that Vertigo had agreed to basically wait kind of in the place that you met Percival, kind of as a show of faith a little bit. But I don't know that you like specifically promised that as much as that was kind of the implication, I think. And I don't know if we resolved one way or the other definitively what you were doing, Zinhorn.
I don't remember what I did, but I was probably staying with Vertigo.
Makes sense. So you don't actually see Percival right now because he sat down in a sulk and then literally just like sank down into the sand, like it just swallowed him up. But it seemed like he did that on purpose. So then we have Zaleen and Carolina going into the temple with Trandinel. And it's, I mean, you kind of know your way around there now, so it's not dangerous in the same way that it was your first visit. But I mean, it takes a while to get there. Are you, covering anything else, or?
I would still be like definitely checking to make sure nobody else has been in here since we left because we were concerned about Tanglefoot coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So I would look for signs of anybody else that may have been messing around in there.
Sure, sure. Um, let's call this a walking investigation check.
14.
14. Um, as far as you can tell, everything looks the same. You don't see any new evidence of disturbances since the last time you were here. So I think, we certainly had some illuminating conversation with Trandonell at the end of last session, but we can imagine that that conversation, continued as you were walking down in, and you would be able to reach the 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 place that you had previously spoke with Talitha by entering this little mobile two-dimensional demiplane. But Trandonell seems to have he knows the code words to get in like properly, except that he is alarmed when he sees it. There's like, I had no idea it had gotten this bad. It's dangerous at this point for us to open it even enough for Rupino and I to go inside. That said, we can help to stabilize it once we're there, so I'm just going to suggest that we only open it once.
Do you want to say hi to Talitha? Let her know that you're here, that you came back.
Yes, and although I owe all of you a great deal, I would ask your indulgence if I could speak to her privately at first. I do not intend to keep any secrets from you. It's more a matter of a personal apology.
I understand.
Absolutely understand.
So he calls this little demiplane and travels in there. And so in the meantime, maybe we can jump back up and Vertigo and Zinhorn. So you know that Rocket is definitely looking for things to get into trouble with, and there are a limited number of choices, but I keep having to keep like, well, what's it? Oh, okay, I guess that's okay. Sorry about that. Percival has sunk into the sand. You know that Rupino was still in the tower, which you now have at like full tower size, standing nearby. What are you doing?
I'm waiting.
Probably reviewing all of Vertigo's notes on Dinethir that he's made so far, and then kind of staring off in the distance a little bit.
Okay.
Don't know quite what to expect, Zinhorn. Which is
Well-
exciting and also very dangerous.
Yeah. The last time we were here, the nightmare creatures like Tanglefoot showed up, so I'm just gonna walk around in a circle, fly up every now and again, just make sure nothing's sneaking up on us.
You know, I hadn't even thought about that. It feels like that was a long time ago and an entirely different kind of problem.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Still don't really know what their connection is.
Mm,
Do you think they'll make a rush for the door if we open it?
I don't know. They might. They seem to thrive on chaos. Uh, so that would certainly trying to wedge the door open or running through might definitely be their kind of style. But
There was a while when I thought the adversary was connected to them, but I'm not sure exactly anymore. Like it's more like two groups of opportunists that are both seizing upon the same thing, or have been
Yeah.
seized upon. I don't know if anybody's directing Tanglefoot in this group, or if they're just sort of a group like that. And the adversary strikes me as strange.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a high bar for strange. Sorry, I'm not there.
You know, if Lynn were here right now, I'm pretty sure she'd point out that it's a high bar for strange.
I think you're right. I was just thinking the same thing, that Lynn would be saying exactly that thing at
Although it would
this
be more
point in time.
musical, probably.
Oh, definitely lyrical.
Mm. I do feel bad for him.
Yeah, me too. He's got people he's trying to protect, so I can understand that, but I have a problem with his methods. Um, and the Tanglefoot people, I mean, like, they're being called into this reality from all of the imbalance in magic and dreams and stuff that's coming from Denethor. So, um, I still don't know their whole deal, but I know they're not good.
I mean, I think back to the, well, to the, shoot, what was it called? Sunken Sea? I'm
The
blanking
Moon
myself.
Shadowed Sea.
Moonshadow Sea. Think back to the Moonshadowed Sea and all of the transformation that place had undergone by the simple presence of a Titan. It wasn't even entirely active. It was just sort of there, and everything leaked out of it. And if there is indeed another Titan involved, then could all of this just be a side effect? You believe in the gods. The stories that people always tell of them is more like they're trying to direct the universe to do something in particular. But this feels like the opposite, where the universe is being directed for no reason in particular. Maybe it's an order versus chaos in the galactic scale of things, I suppose, or the
Instead of good
theistic
versus
level.
evil, order versus chaos.
Yeah. Maybe there's supposed to be balance there or something.
Maybe. Um, I don't know. I guess we'll find out soon.
I mean, you believe in a mountain, that's got to be pretty ordered, right?
Yeah. The mountain is not the sum of its parts.
And the Mistress of the Dark, is that order or chaos? I mean, let's not take into account Zalen's fighting style because that's sort of chaos,
Yeah.
but
Oh boy, is that chaos.
Either of you can make a religion check here if you'd like.
oh boy. I have to flex my religion skill for once.
Yeah.
28.
Ooh, 28. So I think you would understand that the Mistress of the Dark specifically is one of those theological hot button issues because in many respects she very much represents order because her whole thing is about like the order of the universe is that mortal creatures, you know, live and then die, and that's very much a big part of what she's all about. However, the very concept that the existing current Mistress of the Dark, may have once been a mortal who found a way to displace the previous god of death, that's a pretty chaotic action. It is, in fact, potentially one of the most chaotic actions ever performed by a mortal in the history of the cosmos. And so there's an element there that it feels like there's kind of two sides of her own, of that one coin, where there seems like there's a long-term goal of order, but that often the actions might seem chaotic in the moment. So chaotic actions often used in service of ordered intentions.
And then there's Solomonia.
Yeah.
Maybe that's also part of the fracturing that's going on. the crossover from the Fey realm to the
Mm.
mortal world to the godly realms. Maybe the entire world is broken. You know, if Lynn were here, she'd probably tell some story of those other heroes. But I'm starting to wonder whether they were the ones that messed it all up in the first place.
I don't know. Uh, Quite possibly,
Hmm.
but you know, that's I guess a little bit beyond me.
I think at this point you hear Rupino, who has emerged from the tower and is walking over with an armful of like scrolls and other like paraphernalia, and he just kind of says, "Well, I don't know if it's helpful to go around starting to try to assign blame for things like the world being broken. It's kind of too big and complex to assign any specific one cause to any of that."
Weren't you the one that was going to potentially destroy half the world?
Only as a backup. How many times have we had this conversation?
Well, only to point out that it is within mortal hands, potentially,
Oh,
to
I'm not
mess up the
saying that
world.
it's not. I'm just saying that the current existing state of the world, if we want to agree that it's broken, is not the fault of any one individual.
Hmm.
And besides, even if I had used my death ray, I think that that would have been in the service of keep preventing it from being broken further. In the same way that you might, if you've got an injured limb that's gone gangrenous, and you don't have access to the appropriate healing magic, you might sacrifice the limb to save the whole body.
Um,
And
your
besides,
analogy
all of
is
that was like, if the
Your
only reason I was
analogy's
doing it in the
off.
first place was because of all the people in Dinuthair being that dangerous, then is it just me?
Well, your device was going to destroy like 80% of the prime material plane, so it's kind of like cutting the head off to save the body. Um, the
Well,
patient still
no,
dies.
I would
I
dispute
think
that metaphor.
I think a better metaphor in this case might be creating a fire break. I don't know much about
Yeah, no,
fighting fires,
I
but
think that's an appropriate metaphor. I don't think it's all that dissimilar from my own, but if that works for you better, then sure.
well, it's more like you're sacrificing things which are fine and vital to save from some other force which is destructive, rather than destroying part of the force itself which is being destructive. The leg isn't gangrenous; it's you're cutting off the good leg because it
Was
might
it
catch
not
gangrene.
clear that the destruction to the rest of the prime material plane was it was only a consequence of the destructive force being trained on Dinuthera itself, which was the target?
Right, right. But sometimes when casting spells, one has to be careful what gets caught in the blast radius.
I feel like we keep having this conversation in circles. I feel like uh, everyone is keeps forgetting that the plan was not to use it. The plan was to only use it if absolutely necessary. Not like I wanted to. I was really hoping I wouldn't have to, as a matter of fact. But here's my point. Obviously, the consensus has moved on. I'm not disputing the current plan anymore at this point. But let's say you get in there and you discover that they are imminently about to escape and take over the entire extraplanar cosmos and crush it under their tyrannical heel. Now, I'm not saying I think that's necessarily going to happen, but if that were true, wouldn't you wish you had a way to stop them?
I have a little bit of fear that I'm going to have to make a decision like that, and I'm not sure where I land on that.
Well, you see, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, we have a different plan now. And he kind of just like he goes to like hand you this like handful, this like double armful of stuff, which is way too much stuff, I think, for you to hold all at once.
I don't really work with devices all that at all.
Well, you wanted me to set up something that wouldn't require you to stand there and hold it open.
Right, right. This is it then.
Yes. What are you going to use for the platform?
Hmm.
For that matter, what are you going to use to get out there?
We're going to need a boat.
Or a crab.
Boat.
Okay.
I mean, a boat would certainly work if you have a way to hold it stable.
That's what
We-
the immovable rods are for.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. We will probably need. You're going to need to figure this out because let's say you use your boat as the platform and you make your tunnel through the seal. But if the boat is the platform and it stays on the outside and you go through, you're just going to be in the water on the other side. So you can use the boat to get out there, but you probably want to rig up something else to be the outside platform so you can take the boat in with you.
Like a
Unless, of
raft.
course, you just feel like swimming.
I flap my wings.
I mean, great.
Well,
What's everyone else doing?
Platform wouldn't have to be complicated. A few pieces of wood attached to the rods would do it. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it would be difficult. I'm just saying you have to figure something, you have to just decide what you're doing. I
Right.
mean, because you could use the boat if you feel like you don't need it on the other side. But if you do use the boat, you won't have it on the other side.
I guess when I was thinking of this part, we had a flying castle, which is not really here. Oh,
And it's kind of big.
Yeah, there's
We're
no
going to
way
need
that
a-
would fit through this tunnel that we're making.
no.
I made it like, look, I configured this whole thing for like a small, like single file sort of deal because I figured that was safer.
So it can't even be a big boat if we have to go single file.
Well, I mean, it's a little bigger than that, but I'm just saying it's you're not going to take like a great big cargo ship there, but if you got like a 5 or 6 person rowboat sort of deal, that'll go through.
Mm-hmm.
But see, here's the thing. Obviously, as previously discussed, we don't know what you're actually going to find in there. But some of what they did have when we left included, big things. So my thinking was kind of just small enough that, like, they couldn't get out.
There's another possibility, although I'm not sure how it will maneuver properly. I could create a floating disc, which would last. But it only moves when I move.
So here's how this ritual that I've created for you will work. Whatever it is that you set up as this platform, once you have entered and you move away from the other side of the tunnel, because my understanding is that your friend, what's his name, who's going to have that amulet, is not going to take it off for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as all of you move some distance away from the tunnel, the whole thing will collapse and stay closed, and the part of it that stays on the outside will become phased in the same way that the bubble itself is. So no one outside will be able to interact with it in any way. But when you return to that location, as soon as you are within range again, it will once again open. But it will be that amulet that is the key to doing that. So,
Is there anything else which might substitute for that amulet? Is there another one of them made?
well, we obviously made that one, that one was made with Dinutherian magic in Dinuther, and so I am not specifically aware of a double, but it is in principle something that could be done. But that said, that particular amulet was, tricky and dangerous, as we've discussed. So I would imagine anything capable of producing the same effect is going to probably have the same drawbacks.
Hmm.
But like I said, I don't know of one, but the one we do know of did come from there. My guess is that anyone who would have one or be able to make one is going to be probably A, powerful, and B, not especially willing to share without being paid for it in some way that you might not want to pay. If there is anyone alive in there, my guess is they're going to want to come out.
Hmm.
So, obviously, it sounds like the whole relationship with this this other individual is, let's say, fraught. But it sounds like, a bird in the hand, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And
complicated.
well, I can imagine. So, here's the thing. I am feeling. So, listen, I know I keep getting defensive every time you bring up the death ray. Like, I get it. I keep trying to emphasize it's not like I wanted to blow up the world. Like, the only reason I created it in the first place was because I was that worried about what's going on in there. And yet, I have often found that in life, I trust my friends more than I trust myself on decisions like that. And I think it may have been the fact that I went off on my own that maybe led me down a path that my friends would have dissuaded me from if they had been there. And, by the time Trandonell showed up, he was so obviously out of his own mind that I didn't trust him. But if Talitha and Trandonell both are trusting you with this plan, then I trust them. And, by the transitive process, I guess that means that I trust you. And so I hope that it works. But what I'm saying is, be careful. My version of being careful was having a death ray ready to use if necessary. You'll have to figure out your own way of being careful. But with this stuff, I think someone with your skill, he looks to Vertigo, is like, I think should be able to figure this out without tremendous difficulty. I think that you will have what you need, and this tunnel will work in the way that you requested, which is to say, it won't stay open while you're gone. Nobody else should be able to use it when you're gone, but that you can open it yourselves again when you need to. But it is all contingent on whoever wants to come out having that amulet or an equivalent with them. So, with all that said, I think it's probably time for me to go and eat some humble pie down in the temple. And suppose there's no reason to keep the Dunatharians waiting any longer than they have already.
Good luck to you.
Thank you for everything that you've done. And I know we don't necessarily see eye to eye, but I understand why you did what you did. And I don't know what kind of terrible decision I might have to make. but I'll remember how you had to face yours.
Well, remember what I said about my friends. Seems like you've got a good group of friends with you, too. So,
I know a little thing about um, straying a little bit off in my own direction, too.
and thanks for getting me out of that diamond. I mean, I'd still be there if not for you. I won't forget it. All right.
We'll
So,
talk again someday.
he had kind of started walking towards the temple, and then when you say that, he kind of turns back and he says, "You know what? I'll bet we will. We'll see if Trandon will give me 2-to-1 odds." And then he goes, he heads in. So I think in the meantime, eventually, Rupino shows up down there at the entrance. So Zaylene and Carolina, were you just hanging out?
No, we actually did a whole bunch of stuff. Like
Yeah?
I went and checked those tunnels to make sure that they were still filled in.
Yeah.
I braided Carolina's hair.
I probably wrote an entire symphony in the time that they were just yakking away.
That just makes me curious with the nature of the changeling and hair. So like, can you, because if, for example, could you shift, like, we've been certainly treating your ability as though you could, by choice, change your appearance such that your hair is like braided automatically, like auto braided.
I think that Zaylene would be all like, no, and then just pull it and do it right.
Meanwhile, I
It
will
fixes
just
better.
gradually be letting it grow just a little bit so that she just has to keep on doing it.
That's kind of funny. It's like, wait, I thought okay, well, I guess we need to undo it and start up here. All right. Anyway, so Rupino shows up, and I think you hear sort of him gasp and run up and look at the indicator light, and just go, holy. Yeah, okay, well, it's a good thing we're here now. Okay, is Trananel in, is he in there already, or?
No, he said to
he's having
wait.
a moment.
That it's only, you can only open it once, and any more than that, it will be too dangerous. So, yeah, he's in the
You see
dimensional.
his eyes light up a little bit as he seems to be casting a spell. You would, just at a quick glance, you would expect it to be something on the order of sending. And then shortly thereafter, Trandonel returns, and Rupino says, "Turns out we have no time to lose." So he looks to the two of you and says, probably best if you're not in the area when we open it up. I'm a little bit worried about massive arcane force damage.
Yeah, that sounds bad.
Yeah.
How
I'll keep
far
your-
is far enough?
Well, I think as long as, once there's, some stone walls in between you, I think you're going to be fine. But you just don't want to be in line of sight, I think, when we open it. I mean, we're going to get the brunt of it when we go in there. But then once we close it again, like we have to. But, let's not push our luck.
All right, well, I'll keep your
Besides,
tower
you guys
safe.
have got your own stuff to do.
You're
Yep.
going to be all right? You're sure?
Well, I mean, in a sense, I'm probably safer in there than I would be anywhere else. Like, I mean,
Well,
it's going to be a
Insight
pain to
check.
get in, but once I'm in there, that's the safe place.
Well, I was more asking that, is there anything we can do to help that might make this less painful for you getting in?
Oh, no, that'll be fine. You know what? You're a sweetheart for asking. I think it'll be fine.
So
I-
will we be able to hear it when you're in there?
I mean,
Once it's done? Like, we'll
Huh?
be able to tell when the ghost is clear?
like I kind of just assumed you were going on out. I mean, you're going to come back to just like look. I don't. I'm not sure I'm following why you.
Well, yeah, I didn't.
I would imagine
I
it's going to
just
be
thought
very
it would
loud when we
be.
open it, and then quiet again when we close it. But you guys have stuff to do, so
Well, I know, but I kind of wanted to say goodbye to Talitha before we go because I might not be able to do it. I might not get
yeah.
another chance.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, sure. So, yeah, I would say get at least 100 feet away with some nice stone in between. You will hear it when we open it, and then when you stop hearing the noise, you can come back and get in through the little 2D plane.
Okay. Well, good luck.
Right. And so I assume you kind of make your way out, and then sure enough, there is this sort of roar that sounds like thunder and wind from that direction, and you feel like just this torrent of wind blowing out from that direction, and there's kind of like little individual like shrieking howling sort of whistles in it, and flashing lights, and it's only for a few seconds, and then it just cuts off and it's quiet again.
Do you think it's safe now?
Yeah, I think they're really dramatic though.
Okay.
So
So make my way back in.
yeah, when you make your way back to that chamber, the sort of like symbol that had been blinking a red color is now kind of mostly an amber color and seems to be, you know, uh, like cooling, so to speak.
Well, that's a
Um,
good sign.
So I assume you summon the little demi-plane, and are you
Yeah, I
both
don't remember
going
off
in
the
there?
top of my head how to do that, but I'm
There was just a
sure
code
Lynn
word
would
for it,
remember.
and I,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
imagine you have it in character.
Pixie sticks.
Here, let me actually. I'm going to see if I have it in my notes.
Open sesame.
Um, let's see. Um, let's see. Trying to remember. All right. Sorry, I definitely have a lot of notes. There we go. I'm trying to find where I've got all of this stuff. You know what? Never mind. I'm not going to take the time to look this up right now. It's in there somewhere. But in any case, you remember it in character because you wrote it down or something. But sure enough, as you go through there, are you both going? You know, so once again, you find yourself in what appears to you to be kind of just a 10, like a simple cube 10 feet on a side, but that seems able to pass through this, two-dimensional, gap in the wall, moving through until you are on the inside of this strange magical vault. And whereas before it seemed as though it was already sort of cracked and leaking all sorts of strange magical swirls around, that seems to have calmed. And you realize you're in this one big chamber where there are, the series of thrones once again. And the central one is still occupied by Talitha, who looks, if anything, a bit weaker than you last saw her, but she does, regardless, look calmer and happier because she has Trandanel and Rupino sat at her left and right in their own seats.
Everything go okay?
Rupino
Just kind of a general
like,
question for.
you know, Rupino gives the thumbs up, just like Trandonel says, "It is kind of you to inquire. This is our duty, and we will fulfill it. And we hope that you are able in your own mission to find a solution that we could not." And Talitha looks actually like it might be a little bit of a struggle for her to speak, but in her eyes, you can see gratitude.
Well, I hope this makes things a little bit easier for all of you. I did want to ask. I don't know if we'll get the opportunity, but I was thinking about Ustak, and if... Sorry, the bug just flew right at my monitor, scared the crap out of me. Sorry.
Roll initiative.
Yeah. Oh, it's gross. Sorry. We talked a little bit about Usak before, and I don't know if we'll get the opportunity, but if there's a chance we can right a wrong, we would need some information to do so.
Trandonel says, "This is something I would like to see happen as well. However, I cannot imagine that Ustak would wish us to prioritize him over the larger mission. And so this is something that if we are able to resolve the Dinotherian problem, it is absolutely something that I would wish to try."
I can absolutely understand that, and just know that I can't speak for everybody, but I'll do everything in my power to give you that opportunity.
Rupino just kind of says, "Well, how about we try to solve the problem of the ancient magical super gods first?"
Yeah, that
Yeah, I
probably
mean,
has
look,
to come first,
I
but
like Ustak too. I really hope it all works out and we can save him and have a beer. But first things
I'm
first.
trying to be as positive as I can about the situation.
No, okay.
Okay.
You know what? I apologize. I obviously kind of ruined a moment. You know,
Talitha, I know this has been very difficult for you. I hope that we've eased some of your burden with this. Um,
Mhm.
and I know you're not doing so hot, but uh, if there's anything that happens that you think we might need to know, I don't know if you can get us a message, but if you need to.
She kind of looks to Trananel, who leans in closer, and she kind of speaks quietly, and he says, she says she's already doing better.
Good. That's good.
And then he like leans in, she says a little more, and she just says, she says she doesn't know how, but she feels as though somehow this must have always been what was supposed to happen.
Well, fate is a tricky thing, and I try not to think too hard about it. But I leave that to Vertigo. That's more his thing. So is there any last minute advice you have for us? Just because this is a lot, and I mean, I'm sure you and Vertigo and Zinhorn talked while you were all up there, but sometimes he gets crazy with the questions and not as much with the listening. So if you can think of anything else that might come in handy or might be needed.
I think I think Rupino kind of like he looks over and he whispers something to Trandonel too, and then Trandonel like nods, like gives him like the go ahead, and he says, "I think there's going to be a temptation for all of you to try to use the pillar to solve this problem, and certainly that's what we did, but also here we are. So I'm not saying that if there's not some other alternative, but I guess what I would just say is the pillar is not in and of itself a solution. You can't depend on it. You can't know what will happen if you try to use it. Bearing in mind, all of them have been locked in there with it. Any of them could have used it for anything in the meantime. And yet, they're still stuck in there. It's not all powerful, and it is unpredictable. So we're trusting all of you here, and so use your own judgment, but I guess I would just say we were the ones that felt like we knew as much about it as anyone could, and what we got from it is what is the problem that you're trying to fix now.
I completely understand that. Yeah.
Good
I
luck.
appreciate the advice. I'll try to keep it in mind and try to remind, Zaleen, she's probably got it, but try to keep my other friends mindful of it. Thank you.
And Trananol says, I believe in you.
Somebody has to.
Well,
I
no,
don't
not
actually say
really.
that.
I mean, there are lots of people whom I would not say that to. It could just be something, empty words. But
The sentiment is appreciated. Thank you. We'll try to hurry.
well, we'll try to give you as much time as we can.
Good luck.
All right. So, as I think the two of you start making your way out, I think as soon as Rupino has made his way inside and seems to be out of, eye and earshot, Percival emerges from the sand and waltzes over to immediately start trying to look through all of the ritual stuff that Rupino gave you, Vertigo. He does not seem to be asking permission. He is just he's going to just try to do it unless you're doing anything to obstruct him.
Oh yeah, probably a barrage of questions as well. But start to kind of try to explain it and understand it with them there, with the adversary there.
Yeah.
But yes, physically taking hold of the stuff as well to turn it over.
Okay. Well, so
Let's not
are
get
you
ahead of
allowing him
ourselves.
to look at it with you?
Yep.
Okay. I think without going through the minutia of you literally like talking through arcane formulas and stuff like that, I think you find that he seems to be a quick study with this sort of thing, and that the two of you, at least intellectually, I wouldn't say necessarily matched, but at the very least, you feel like professionally, this is someone you could work with. Like, he knows his stuff, and you feel like you could trust him at least to be able to understand and follow the instructions properly to do this correctly. You know, and it would just be a question of judgment rather than expertise.
I think Vertigo will be lost in that, actually having an intellectual peer to chat with over this, and it gets kind of esoteric at times. But I think there would be an attempt to indicate that the door can open again. He needs to be there, but he does not have to come back. And kind of gauge what his response to that is. So hiding that in many levels of intellectual armor, but kind of the same sort of thing. It sort of, not only does this open, but it can open once more with the proximity of.
Well, I sure hope so. I don't plan to stay in there.
Oh, I was under the impression that you really just wanted to go in. That's refreshing.
I need to go in, but so that I can get what I need and come back out with it. And here's the thing, we are working together on this, and I know that we are stretching to trust one another right now. And what I will say right now is that although the functioning of this apparatus would suggest that I would be able to return and open the tunnel myself without all of you, that I will not leave you behind unless absolutely necessary.
I appreciate that, and your candor. I know this is difficult for you. I still don't understand all of it, and frankly, I probably never will. But I earnestly want to make things better. But it's the others. They'll be coming back. I'm not sure.
Interesting. You know, I wasn't sure after some of the encounters we've had in the past, but you are surprisingly perceptive and sharp for someone so naive.
Don't take this the wrong way, but you sound just like my mother.
Well, perhaps your mother was a very smart and perceptive individual.
I think so.
As he says that, make an insight check. I know that's not necessarily
We'll
Vertigo's
see what
best
happens
thing.
there. 2.
Yeah. Yeah, he has a very strange expression when he says that last bit about your mom. And I think you get the feeling like there is definitely something you're missing about that reaction he just had, but you have no idea what it was. But in any case, he said, and I will share that I did overhear your conversation with that Dinetharian, and I have a boat that we can use. I'm actually a little surprised that you had not already made arrangements for that, but it's fine because I have one.
That's excellent, actually. I was concerned it would take more time, and I know how concerned you are about time. I hadn't found a solution for that particular problem, so I'm glad you have one. See, this is what working together has brought us. Everything we need.
I mean,
Do you-
I guess I've brought two things, and you're bringing one thing, but I guess we're working together. It's fine.
We did bring experts who helped build this device and maybe know more. What do
Yeah,
you
okay,
expect to
that's fair.
see on the other side? Do you have any expectations? it's all very murky and, frankly, a little annoying that there's so many unknowns.
Well, that's kind of I know what you mean, that it's frustrating to be walking into a situation that we don't know what we're going to find. However, that scenario in some ways is exactly what I'm looking for. So we'll certainly have to be on our toes when we go in. But if that were not the situation, I probably wouldn't even be doing it.
I've been trying to embrace this new magical energy that I've been researching. My history is all with academic magic, which is very well laid out and very organized and easier to memorize than you might imagine. But the other stuff, the more flow of magic, I guess you might say, that's been very challenging. So I'm intrigued to find out what this other magic is like, whether there's a third kind that I can compare and then learn more about the other two. And then in that process, be able to spark an entire new set of research to be able to create, uh, I'm not exactly sure what in the end, but the possibilities are quite intriguing.
The Denutherian magic is powerful, but it's not sustainable. I
Not in
think
the ways that has been presented so far, no. Mostly because there wasn't balance encountered, which is important.
that's the problem, is that it's not sustainable.
Hmm.
I need something sustainable.
Hmm. Hmm. Depending
Um,
on how things work out, we may have a very long research history together.
he he looks at you and he's kind of like giving you sort of an evaluating look, but I think just then he glances away, and it's because Zaline and Carolina have emerged from the temple, and so he kind of like clams up.
I imagine that we would just walk out like laughing, like because we were talking about something really cool.
Oh, I was just
When
telling her about that joke where I made my hair grow. She was braiding it because I thought it would be funny.
once we're all together, um, I'm going to apologize to Percival Tankers.
I mean, you're all. I would say you're all together. I mean,
Okay. Um, I'd like to apologize to you publicly. You were right yesterday when you said that I didn't ask you regarding removing a curse from you. Um, I treated you like a child. In my defense, I work with children a lot and often believe that what I'm doing for them is right and that they don't know what they need, and I have to sometimes discount what their desires are. But you're an adult, and I treated you like an infant, and I apologize for that.
make a persuasion check.
9.
Yeah. So I think he's kind of scowling a little confused as you say all that, and then he kind of just says, "What is this? Are you trying
That's
to
just
make
how he
like?
smiles. Sorry.
Is this like like I already we're working together already? What are you trying to get out of me here?"
Nothing. I'm just apologizing. That's it.
I think he Like he breaks eye contact looking down at some of the magical paraphernalia, and he's muttering something under his breath. I think you catch the word weirdo in there, but he's not addressing it directly to you.
Okay.
So I have good news. We were in need of a boat, and Percival has a boat.
Trying not to say the adversary because he realized that's what he's always called him,
Mhm.
and he's right here in front of him. So
So that actually does bring up an interesting question. Is your name actually Percival Cankers, or is that just like a alias, or like is that what you would prefer to be called? I just want to make sure.
Well, I sure don't want you to call me by my real name.
Why
Percival
not?
works.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that is one of my names.
Oh, I have a lot of those too, so I get that. But if you change your mind, let me know.
Percival is fine.
Okay.
I actually don't hate adversary either. That was kind of cool, actually.
I felt kind of awkward because it was sort of.
And
I mean-
I get it. Like, yeah, like I kind of thought of all of you that way too, and like I feel like if this working together thing gets us all what we need, then we can do it and go our separate ways.
Well, I mean, unless we want to do more additional magical research to try to stabilize any sort of Denetherian magic, or perhaps create a fourth kind of magic, which was, well, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Just kind of
make a
lean over.
persuasion check.
Just a little
persuasion.
lean
Yeah.
lean over to Zaleen and go, "What is going on right now?"
The only thing is I can't roll a 2 on this one. Oh, I rolled a 16.
16. He kind of just says, "We'll see." In any case, he kind of glances up to you, Zinhorn, and says, "You wanted to apologize? How about you make it up to me by bringing this boat back over here? It's on the beach, about half a mile that way."
Where do you want it? Right here?
I mean, what are we planning to do? I mean, we could all walk down there, I suppose.
Was there a particular coordinates that the thing had to be located at? I remember a stable platform, but I don't remember if there was a particular.
No. So basically, what the ritual you have says that you could essentially. It seems to describe that there is a sphere of this bubble, and that in principle, you need to be at the surface of that sphere, but that you could be anywhere along the surface and it would work. But that you are going to basically, it will be like opening a little hole in the bubble and you will be traveling through to the immediate other side. So, for example, if you tried to do it in the air, you would emerge in the air. If you tried to do it underwater, you would emerge underwater, etc.
Okay, and the sphere is in the water or located
Yeah.
further
Now,
off. The
I
shore.
think the thing is, none of you have really investigated that element of it. But you also know that if there were just a big glowing pink bubble in the middle of the ocean, like the place that it supposedly was is not so far away that people wouldn't be able to see that, right? Because you imagine, like, if there was a whole island big enough to have a city on it, plus what you've heard about the pillar, like that would be pretty big. And so it is perhaps a little bit mysterious how something that is theoretically that big is not obvious from a great distance away. So you have not actually investigated that, so you don't have the answers to that.
So it'll take some sensitivity when we're getting out further.
Yeah.
I mean,
By
if
the
you guys
way-
not actually been out there,
Who has time for that when people are trapping us in these weird mushroom holes in other
We've
dimensions? And
been busy.
yeah. And listen, as eager as we all are to get out there and get this going so we can all do the things we need to do, we had to fight some stuff today and we're a little wiped. So if we get halfway out there and get attacked by a sea serpent or a kraken or something, none of us are going to get through. So we need to make our plans, prepare, and then we need to take a big long nap.
I mean, that kind of shows a lack of planning on your part, but
Does it?
I can see the argument that we don't know what we're facing, and it would certainly not be smart to go into such an unknown, ill prepared.
Precisely. So we can do everything we need to do. We can move closer to where we want to depart, set the tower up again. Maybe we can make some observations tonight, see what we can see from here, and then we sleep on it and get an early start in the morning.
What do we do if another one of those weird magical storms rolls through? Because, like, we haven't
Those
seen them in a
were-
while.
Those were from Maroshka
Yeah.
and
Were they?
Yeah,
took care
so
of
that
Marushka.
was something that was happening because Marushka was unsettled, and so once y'all
Oh, okay.
helped her come to terms a little bit with what was going on, those stopped.
Okay.
He says, "Is it your intent to? I suppose we could go out to the location, find the spot, and set up the platform, and then you would rest there. Is that what you're proposing?"
I mean, we could do that. I
How
just,
far out is it?
Miles. I
And
mean,
we're
it's not.
rowing there? Like, what kind of boat is it? Just a
It's
rowboat?
it's a
Just
rowboat,
little-
but you're
Oof.
strong. Look at that one. He points at Zinhorn. Like, don't think I didn't see that belt you're wearing.
It's a nice belt.
I didn't say it wasn't a nice belt. I'm just saying it'll make you row good.
That's true. You are very perceptive.
and if only Evan was here.
Yeah.
He's
You
super
know.
good at rowing.
So as much as I hate to delay further yet, you are persuasive in the reasoning.
I mean, you don't know what we're going to face when we get on the other side of that. It could be absolute murderous chaos, and we need to be at our best.
I have just conceded the point. Why are we still
Mhm.
arguing about it?
We're not. I was just continuing to agree with you.
Okay, so
You
we're
people
all
are
in
infuriating.
agreeance. Let's move
Indeed.
on.
I thought it was just me.
And you've only hung out with us for a couple hours now.
Yeah, and I've had to deal with this for like weeks. So many questions.
We are off.
I'm writing them down now.
Okay, so
And
So
we
is
lead the way.
this is Christiana asking now. So is the plan to go out there in the boat, find the spot, and then do a long rest in the tower? Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, because
Yeah.
you can. I mean,
Yeah.
I have no objection to doing that, but that's I'm
Okay.
just
Yeah,
trying to follow your lead.
Yep. I just want to make sure that we have a chance to rest up before
Oh no,
we go in
I
there.
get it.
Yeah.
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 so why do we
We
need
have
to go
some
out there
wood
and
In
then come
fact,
back and then go out there again?
I was going to time it a little differently. But well, so I guess. Well, you tell me how you want to play it. Like what order you're doing.
Can we
things in.
just like skip all of the blah blah?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like, we can just
That's
say
fine.
that that's
I'm
what
just
we
trying
did.
to say, like, where are you taking the long rest is just what I want to establish. So if there is stuff that will happen as you approach that location if you're doing that before the rest. Otherwise, I'm just trying to find out what it is that you're doing so that I understand where it's all happening.
My
I think we
question
only need to go out there
is,
once,
yeah,
one time.
that's my thought too. Like, if we go all the way out there, are we gonna have to turn around and come all the way back? So if that's the case,
I thought what you were talking about was going out there with the boat, locking the boat in place with the rods, and then sleeping in the tower. I thought that's what you were talking about. If you want to do something differently than that, it's entirely up to you for all of you to decide. I mean, you could just have the long rest here on the beach before you go out if you want. I only mentioned the other way because I thought that's what you were saying.
I think that Vertigo would suggest that doing it here is the safest option
Yeah.
because things
How-
will get
Yeah.
All
weird
right. So
the
let's
closer
just
we
go
get to the
ahead and
barrier.
rule
Yeah.
then that you decide to have the long rest there on the beach rather than going out there and having it in an unsecure location.
Yep.
That makes sense. And although I was actually originally thinking of timing this out a little bit differently, I'm going to go ahead and say that when you complete your long rest, you're all going to level up.
Oh,
Yeah.
one activity that would have happened that evening is something that Vertigo wants to make sure to do,
Yeah.
and that's we have a sending stone that connects back to the flying. Do we not have that anymore?
No, you.
Ivy has it.
Yeah.
Then the other alternative is the one that I was originally thinking before I thought we had the sending stone, which is that he's going to use 2 of his paper birds
Mhm.
to try to outline what's happening and tell them to bring the ship or bring Sunya here
Mhm.
because there may be something coming out that they may need to at least witness, if not defend
Okay.
against. And then there's also the question of whether the tower or the temple needs to be defended, which Sequential will know about.
Right.
So
And you'll recall too, though, when you left Pashan, that there was a little bit of a sense that there was a tense political situation, and you were
Yes.
kind of given dubiously legal clearance to go ahead and go do your mission. Having the castle fly away here could attract a lot of attention that is fraught. But obviously, I'm saying you would know that context when you make this decision. Is all.
Yep, he would leave it up to Yobert and the rest to make the actual decision. It could be a smaller trip, whatever. But Vertigo wanted to make sure they knew,
Right.
because we
No,
have had
good,
a bad habit of just wandering away, and nobody has a clue where we've gone.
No,
And there's
I think
too many
that's-
dangers here.
Yeah,
So
I think that's great. So I don't know if anyone wants to like touch base on what it is that you're doing with your level up. We could do that. Otherwise, we can move to the next morning.
I
A
haven't even
bunch of my
started yet.
spells.
I don't know if much changes at this level, actually.
Yeah.
I think for several of you, if you're the full spellcasters, you just get the next level of spells. I think.
Yeah, I got an 8th level spell,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, new
Okay.
cantrip. I get 3rd level spells. Actually, no, it's the multi-class table. I keep forgetting that.
Yeah, I think for any oh well that's right. I keep forgetting that Vertigo is no longer a pure wizard.
Yeah.
Zaleen has been multi-class for a while. But I think Carolina and Zinhorn as pure bard and cleric respectively get 8th level spells. All right. So, I think perhaps then while you deal with all of that, I will narrate us that you all get your long rest in the tower. Percival, so would you have invited him to come inside the tower?
I think I would have, because I'm not a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't know if he would accept, but I would have
He
been
does
like,
decline
yeah, you can.
the invitation, but I kind of wanted to know if you would have asked or not. But he
Yeah.
does seem to he does decline the invitation. Like for him, not so rudely. But he does just kind of seem to wander off, and you're not sure. He's spending the night somewhere, presumably, but he apparently doesn't want you to know what his arrangements are.
He's sleeping in the boat with like an old, ripped up, like burlap sack on top of him, like all pathetically. That's my imagination.
Old moth-eaten headless teddy bear.
Yes. Crying.
So in any case, though, he, you are all able to complete your long rest. In the morning, you fetch the boat, which is it's fairly big for a rowboat. Like it's not just a dinghy. Like it will seat all of you comfortably, but it's also not much bigger than that, right? You know, it's like 15, 20 feet long, and you know, there's room for all of you to sit and row, but it's not much bigger than that. And so you all begin to, you know, row your way in that direction, and it's a relatively warm, clear morning as you're making your way in that direction. But as you start, you know, as you spend, you know, a couple of hours rowing in that direction, you increasingly find that currents seem to be kind of trying to keep you from going the direction you're trying to go. And you know, it's even as you kind of you find like the currents seem to somehow be, they keep trying to steer you around the place that you're trying to go. However, you know, with determination and guided by Percival, who claims that he has come out to investigate the bubble before, can you continue to guide yourselves to where you believe to be the issue. The clouds start looking sort of strange and wispy. The character of the light of the sun kind of changes. It almost like the sun starts feeling a little bit like a hazy day, even though you don't actually see anything, like there's no clouds in the sky. But like everything just starts having a strange sort of like hyper real quality to it. And you don't see like anything, like, you know, there's no obvious like place in the water where you don't see the ripples, you don't see a big bubble of energy or anything. But there is a point where as you are rowing, the current has started to really work. It's you are plenty strong enough at this point, Zinhorn, with that belt that you've got, that you can continue to make the boat go the direction you want it to go. But you are having to work increasingly hard to do it. It is clear that like no one is going to get to where you're going accidentally, because the currents are aggressive in trying to move you any other direction. But as you continue in that pace, all of a sudden, all of you feel sort of this prickle of energy wash over you, and I need all of you to make a Constitution saving throw.
Dirty 20.
Okay. So we got 2 dirty 20s. We've got a 16 and an 8 from Carolina.
Yay!
Yeah. So I think
Love those throws.
everyone feels a sudden wave of vertigo where, like, oh well, you know, but certainly dizziness. There is basically a few seconds where, even though with your eyes you are not seeing anything change, all of your body's other senses are telling you that the boat like it just flipped over over and over again, like you just did a somersault. Every other sense in your body tells you that is what just happened, but your eyes don't see anything change. Carolina, I'm not going to tell you that you throw up, but you sure feel sick to your stomach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so I would say if we were in combat, you might have the poisoned condition for a few rounds, but like nothing's happening instantly. But as that happens, Percival says, "Well, here we are." And I think as you all kind of look around, because I imagine you were all kind of paying attention to what was happening, no one was just daydreaming at this point, you realize, looking at the land in the distance, because you can still kind of see, like you're not, Actually, I take it back. You know, a few miles out to sea, you can't really see the land you left behind. You wouldn't see any land. But I think that you recognize in those few seconds, you have a vague sense looking at the clouds in the sky that you are not in the same position you were a moment ago. Like if you were on a map, like if you're pointing to where you are on a map, you feel like you moved. Like, and I think, um, uh, Vertigo, make an Arcana check. Oh, look at that,
26.
26. I think, based on what you just felt and this recognition that you seem like you're in a different location than you were a moment ago, that you think what happened is that literally, magically, the magic of this seal skirted you instantaneously around the bubble to the other side of it without like perceiving the time that it would have taken to move it. And so it's almost like you don't know if it's more like a teleport effect or something else, but you feel like you have just crossed through where the bubble is without going inside.
That's very effective. Very powerful. Very isolated. I wonder how many strange stories were told about this.
Well, at the very least, people thought they could see a trick of the light at dawn when the sun is shining through this area, and that's why they called it Dawn's Tear, I think. And that's conflated with the true history of the place before it was sealed away, I'm sure.
So was it called Dinethir originally, or is that a transformation of the name, or somehow a ripple backward in time to inspire the original creators who managed to... Oh, maybe it's
You
not
don't know
important.
this? You're the ones that, like, actually talk to these people.
There was a lot to talk about. We didn't necessarily get into all the details, and I'm sure it's in my notes somewhere.
I think you all could piece together from, like, the various bits that you've gotten that, like, the island was called Dinuther. Like, that's the people who lived there called it Dinuther. It was the island of Dinuther. And you think that the idea of Dawn's Tear is a transformation of that came later.
Or was it all fated to be?
All right, so are we doing this or what? We don't know what's inside, but that's not going to be any less true an hour from now.
A few protections.
And I think Nedry will cast Protection from Evil and Good on Lynn. Tap the book. And give... Oops, not that one. I use the Midnight Stone tablet to send Zaleen through a port. No, wait, wrong button. Give Zaleen 11 temporary hit points. And the shimmering blue shield forms around Vertigo. Man, I don't remember all the names anymore.
Okay.
There are any more other protections? Now might be the time to assemble them.
So I'm going to give the three of you each an additional 15 hit points with aid.
All right. So,
Bardic
I'm-
inspiration from the bard.
Got a
I'm
song for
going
this, Lynn?
to.
Who
I'm going to
is-
cast Protection from Good and Evil on Vertigo.
Well, dang, everybody's doing it, so I'm gonna do it too.
Well, I don't have the map up to add the dots to people, so please do remember what you've cast so that we can keep track if we enter combat.
So I don't think Zinhorn has protection from good and evil yet, right?
That is correct.
Well, you do now, because my mandolin can do that.
Alrighty.
Who's doing the actual like Nedry or excuse me, Vertigo? Are you doing the ritual? Are you the one that's doing it?
Not from Vertigo, no.
You for the
Oh, for the sorry.
yeah, for the
I thought you
for the
meant I
bubble,
thought
yeah.
you meant an actual like ritual of
No.
protection or something.
No, just the setup for the creating this tunnel, I think is what
Yeah.
she meant.
Yeah, I understand what needs to be done.
Okay. Shoot, now I don't know where I put it. Hold
Mhm.
on. Scrolling. I have too many songs at this point. Okay.
Oh, no, too many
Uh,
songs.
Invent a new one
let's
out of whole
just
cloth
move
right
it
now.
along
All
and
right.
pretend that
Yeah.
that Vertigo has bardic inspiration.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You
I
were
sang
singing
you
the
a very
whole way
pretty
out
song.
here. All right.
Yep.
So
Oh,
So,
is that a D10 by the way at this point?
the inspiration, I believe so. Yeah. Right.
Hold
D10.
on, hold on. It looks like I have leveled up and is now a D12.
Oh, look at that. All right. So, the first step is you create the stable platform. Let's just go ahead and hand wave that you put something together like you got like the top of a table from inside the temple or something like that, and you've rigged that up so that you can affix the immovable rods to it and make it perfectly stable, which now suddenly means that like from the boat's perspective, like it seems to be moving because you're actually moving gently on the surface of the water. It's relatively calm, but you're moving some as opposed to this platform, which is now perfectly stable. But you mark out the kind of circles and sigils, and you have there prepared the diamond with infinite facets that is placed in kind of a stand on that location, and the amulet only needs to be nearby in the way that this has been set up. And so Percival doesn't need to do anything directly, although he is certainly like watching over your shoulder as you're doing all of this, and occasionally nitpicking your sigil handwriting. But in the meantime, you are able to put it all together, and then when the time comes, you activate it, and there is a loud, like, not an explosion or like a bang, but just like almost like an animal roar that just is accompanied with a burst of air and light that kind of dazzles you all for a moment. And then just in the middle of this bright, sunny, on the sea environment, you are now seeing in front of you a swirling vortex that extends forward into what seems like it should just be more air, but you see a tunnel that seems to extend what looks to be about 30 feet forward, and it's about 10 feet across, and it's just swirling energy that like the sides of it seem very disorienting to look at. But on the far side of this tunnel, you do see open air again.
Let's go.
All right, everyone in the boat.
The tunnel has you realize that the tunnel has so here's the thing. You would have known, Vertigo, that the tunnel is going to appear at the very spot that you have fixed the platform, right? So you could have chosen, for example, to make it happen like 3 feet above the water level or at the water level or wherever you wanted it to be. So where did you set it?
Well, we wanted to be able to take the boat through, so I
Yeah.
think at or just slightly below the water level if possible.
Okay. So that like the water will sort of fill the
Flow
bottom
through.
of it and you can
Yeah.
just sort of row the boat
And a
through.
couple of very confused fish,
Yeah.
probably.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And so you see the water as the tunnel opens, there is a moment where it's not full of water and you watch water moving in to fill it from both ends. And then you are able to maneuver the boat through. You can't row properly inside because it's not wide enough, but you can sort of use the oars to like pole the boat along. And as you are going through, I want everyone to make a wisdom saving throw.
Okay.
Is this magical?
Yes.
I was planning on doing a dash from The Incredibles and just
Oh,
hang over the side of the boat and kick through since
Yeah.
I've got the super strength.
yeah. Well, so what that means is that you are willing to have your feet potentially touch the edges of this tunnel.
I hadn't thought that far ahead.
Well, I mean, what I'll say is Zinhorn can tell that if he wants to do that, that's what will happen.
Zinhorn does not want to do that.
Well, there you go. I think what you do find is that when you poke the sides of the tunnel with the oar, it doesn't feel hard like rock or glass. Like there's a little bit of like give or like squish. There's like resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use it to push along, but it is kind of like you don't see it do anything to the oar, but it is kind of a strange phenomena.
Okay.
So it looks like we've got 13, 12, 17, and Lucky Lynn with the 7. Just having a rough go of it at the moment. Still not feeling good from before, I guess. And so I think what happens is everyone, as you're passing through the tunnel, you are feeling like that like the hair on the back of your neck stand up and like goose flesh, that sort of thing, and whatever Dragonborn have as the equivalent with their scales. There's kind of just this sense of like static electricity and sort of ozone smell all over, and you can hear kind of just like at the very edges of your awareness, you hear what sounds like a bunch of strange whispering. But for Lynn, you're feeling all of that too, but that whispering starts to like get into your head, and you suddenly find that it's as though thousands of people are all at once trying to give, like, imagine if every conversation that everyone in Dinuthere has had for the entire time that it was, sealed away, is now being spoken to you in a whisper all at once. And you are utterly overwhelmed. There's no immediate, like, mechanical effect or anything, but you are just like you are effectively stunned while this is happening.
Like, I'd be surprised if I didn't just immediately pass out, because that seems like a lot.
Yeah. And it's not loud, but it's just overwhelming because it definitely doesn't feel just like a sound that is nothing, like that is white noise in your ear. It feels as though that's all being like psychically passed to your brain, and it's overwhelming. But so I think all of you might or might not notice that Lynn kind of just eyes go glazed and is kind of just like tipped over in her seat. But you pass through, and then you emerge from the tunnel on the other side, and you can see where there wasn't one before, an island. And I'm going to put us on the island map.
Woohoo!
Now, obviously, the angle that I have here is a top-down regional map, not a battle map. And so you are approaching this island from the south, but here in Roll20, do you all see it now?
Yep.
All right, so certainly the features that stand out the most, especially from your angle, which is to the side, is that this island has an extremely large, unusually large and tall mountain at the center of it that is wreathed in clouds and mist, but has the shadow of something at the top. There is a lot of strange, glowing spots here and there on the hills and mountains that surround that. But on the western side of this southern slope, there is obviously a very large city that is in rough shape. There are like active spots that seem destroyed and or actively on fire. There is smoke rising from it in many places. And like that's probably the most of what you can see from where you are, because you're not right at their coast. I would say you're maybe like half a mile offshore.
Well, there's not an army standing by ready to invade us. This place looks like it's having some serious troubles. Is there any particular place we should head? I will include all four of them in that question. Or should I just head toward the nearest hunk of shore?
I think Percival says steer clear of the city. Although I think what you would probably notice also is that when you get much to the west of where the city is, the shore is like rocky cliffs that wouldn't really be great for bringing a small boat into.
Okay. And we're coming in from the south?
Yeah.
All right. I will take us a little bit east to avoid the city.
So you're busy, so I'm not going to have you use your normal extremely high passive perception, Zinhorn. But everyone can make a perception check.
I'm also facing the wrong way.
Yeah.
Does that include me, or like, am I?
No, I
Am I
think
going
I
now?
think once you were free of the tunnel, after a few seconds, you kind of just blink and you're feeling okay again. But it really just like going through that just sort of short circuited you for a while.
Is it
Well,
like bright
apparently I'm
daylight?
feeling real good because I was a
Yeah.
24.
Is it like bright daylight?
Yes, yeah, it's
Okay.
it is a clear sky. Although I think you notice in here, it feels like the sunlight is a slightly different color, maybe something that you might not even notice if it weren't just going from one to the other. There's just someone's got like just slight orange yellow gel filter on the sun. So we got some good perception checks there, with a 24 from Lynn, but also a natural 20 from Vertigo. I think as you are starting to make your way into shore, Lynn and Vertigo both see there is something that I think at first glance looked like just a bit of like rocks offshore from where the some of the cliffs were. But it is clear now that some of these rocks are moving in your direction relatively fast. And whatever it is pretty big, certainly bigger than your boat.
Well, that's not good. Not good. Not good.
Are they creatures or are they boats or magical creature boats?
I mean, it's still a little ways away. You'll certainly, unless you do something, have a chance to observe it more closely soon.
Oh, excellent. Oh, wait. No, it's bad.
Well, maybe. You don't know what it is yet.
We need to make sure that portal gets closed.
You find as you had started to row away from it that once you were about 30 feet away, it just closed by itself.
Everybody remember where we parked?
Yes, really,
Yep.
for real.
Because I don't imagine there's anything visible on this side. So
No, like once it closes, you don't see anything.
Leave your magic mouth there.
I could put it on the surface of the water, I suppose.
Well, so the other
Yes,
thing
yes,
that you
yes.
know that you probably might wonder about is like what happens if without the tunnel, you saw what happened when you kind of crossed the bubble from the outside. What happens when you do that from the inside? You're not sure.
Well,
The game glitches at that point. And
Mm. You clip off the map and just fall infinitely.
Mm, so I'm trying to just like I'm hedging my bets here,
hmm
and I'm gonna cast oh wait, no, I can't because that's a concentration spell, so never mind. Because I already have protection from good and evil up. I was gonna
Mhm.
cast invisibility, but just figured maybe one of us ought to be like hiding, but
Yeah,
it's
so
fine. It's fine. It's
the
fine.
the
Everything's
boat
fine.
full of people and one of them is invisible. I'm just yeah, hey, so I think you see that unless you have some sort of a more drastic action, this thing is going to intercept you before you will be able to reach shore.
Anybody have any ideas?
I am going to veer further to the east
A little
Oh,
faster?
oh,
and
actually,
move
oh,
faster.
is
Yeah.
this gonna work? Holy crap, you guys. I have the hither thither wand.
Yeah.
what's the range on that?
1,500 feet.
Oh, wow.
hmm I would say you're not quite that close to the shore yet, but certainly you could get that much closer. You would be in the water that much closer to shore.
It says it needs a flat surface, though.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It does. The water won't work for that. You could
What
do it
about
in the bottom of the boat, but the other end would need to be on something solid.
What about the thing that's approaching us?
I mean,
So is it one thing or was there more than
so
one?
as it's getting a little closer, what you are seeing looks like a form like you know how when there are rocks on a rocky coastline, like there's lots of like little rocks and it looks kind of like a rock formation, but there's clearly a whole cluster of them moving together like one thing that just has sort of a rocky non-uniform surface. And I think as it's getting a little closer, you are seeing that there are also uh, what look at this distance like maybe birds clinging to the rocks. But also, you have to imagine an ordinary seagull or whatever would probably fly away if the rocket was standing on was moving like this, but they are not.
So is it moving much faster than we are?
Uh, not well. So Zinhorn can row the boat pretty fast, but the problem is that where it's coming from and where you would need to go, like it's between. It's more or less
Mhm.
between you and the island, and so it doesn't have to be that much faster than the boat to catch you unless you were going the other direction, which you can't really. So, like, I'm leaving it open if y'all have any big ideas, but mostly this thing is about to start to get within range of things to happen.
So it's like just a rock, or
So this cluster of rocks you're seeing, just what you can see above the surface, is at least 15 feet across.
I mean, can I accelerate? Can I?
So yes, but what I'm saying is you can be closer to the island when it catches you, but it's between you and the island.
Okay.
So, what if we just go really fast, ramming speed, and boom, portal in the side of the thing, and then we just come up on the beach, somewhere over there. I got a mile radius that I can use this thing for. So,
All right. I'm gonna accelerate
Okay.
and try and keep an eye on it so that, or if it gets too close, maybe I can move around it, evade it.
Okay. Um, so what is it that you're planning to try to do, Lynn, with the hither thither? Because fifteen
well,
hundred
I was
feet's
just,
not a mile.
yeah, I read a mile somewhere in here. Oh, when the two portals move more than a mile apart.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
never mind. But yeah, 1,500 feet.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know how to judge that distance.
Well, what I'll tell you is this thing's going to catch you before you can get within 1,500 feet of the island.
Okay. Well, maybe we should just row casual then.
Casual? We
I
could row
can.
faster.
I was gonna say quite the opposite and try like I can turn us 90 degrees away from it and draw it further out and then try and get around it.
I don't think that's gonna work. Maybe we can just pass it off like we're lost.
No one's made it through this wall in a gazillion years.
I don't know. Maybe they're friendly.
Is it a thing or a them or does it even reason?
Well, I don't know, but if we
I
get
don't know.
1,500 feet within the beach, within 1,500 feet of the beach, we can get out of here. But we got to be closer.
All right.
You need to row faster. And so Vertigo will walk over to Zinhorn. Zaleen will feel the protection from good and evil fade as Vertigo will cast haste on Zinhorn, so he
Sure.
can row 3 times as fast.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that as Zinhorn begins rowing the boat even faster, I think at this point it is like at a speed where everyone's like having to hold on because you know the boat is it's almost like a speedboat now, right? Um, I think what happens is as this thing is getting closer and as you sort of increase your speed, suddenly this thing increases its speed as well. But as it does, it more of it comes up from below the surface. And what you see is although it's almost in the shape of an enormous turtle, but its shell, as I mentioned, looks rocky. And the head and flippers, what you can see of them as this enormous turtle-like creature emerges from, you know, like it's enough of it is above the surface now that you can see the head and some of the flippers, appears to be made of metal and other strange components, as opposed to any kind of a normal, you know, animal turtle.
So they made like a dragon turtle out of Terminator parts.
Man, Sequential would love this.
Yeah, so
This is
I
where he's
think
from.
in the meta, I would say that is not a bad description. Another touch point you might use is the big turtle robot dinosaur from Horizon Forbidden West.
Haven't placed that game yet. So where's that noise coming from? Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. So Percival hasn't said anything, but he is watching all of you carefully as you are kind of discussing options. So he hasn't contributed, but he is certainly paying attention. So here's the thing is that you are definitely getting closer. I think that we're at a stage where we might roll for initiative, and if you want to continue to try to like keep moving away from it and get closer and closer, then we can kind of have this start as kind of a chase, right? Like it is gaining on you, but you're also moving faster now. And so it might be that you could, you could get there. But I think the last thing that will happen before we roll initiative is that as more of it is emerging from the water, and you can see that it has increased its speed as well. So you're going faster than it, but it also is like positioned to where it doesn't necessarily have to outrun you to intercept. But as it is trying to speed up to intercept you, you hear a voice.
Yeah, check upstairs. It's not there.
You hear a voice in common that sounds like when people use thaumaturgy to make their voice extra loud. So it sounds like magically enhanced in that way. And the voice says in common, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, where did you come from? Please don't run. I have so many questions." And this thing is continuing to try to like rush at you, but you hear that voice coming from it.
Call off the giant scary turtle.
Who even are you?
I like questions.
We have lots of questions too. Where are we?
So I think it does
and
not.
I'm gonna stop.
Yeah. Okay,
rowing.
so it does not stop moving towards you, but you do stop rowing to let it catch up. Okay, great. So I think as you kind of slow and it catches up, you watch as it like comes up alongside you, and it kind of seems to adjust its buoyancy so that it's now like largely floating on the surface. And you can see that this is just it's a 30-foot across construct of a sea turtle with a shell that looks like it is perhaps intended as camouflage as much as armor. The shell seems to be made of like normal, natural rock. But the rest of it is clearly a magical construct of some kind. And as it sort of floats there, you again hear the voice kind of emanating from it, just saying, "Where did you come from? Did you have anything to do with that shockwave?"
Difficult to say.
Did you come from
just-
outside?
Outside. I mean, we were just out rowing, and there was this like swirly, tunnely thing, and
Make a deception check. With advantage, I think, because the person making the insight check here can't see you up close. Okay, well that's a 7. I think the person just says, "Okay, here's the thing. You probably don't know this, but you are in terrible danger right now. I highly advise that you allow me to bring you to safety."
Who are you?
Zephyr, does that mean anything to you? Probably not. It will once we are in a place that we can actually have a conversation.
Maybe we should move to that safer place regardless.
yeah. What is
New
the
friends,
danger?
let's go.
Yeah, we don't have time to talk about danger if it's coming. Let's go.
It's definitely coming. All right, so I am going to maneuver Sheldrake underneath you, and then have my drones affix you to the shell so that I can speed you along. So please do not freak out.
Okay.
Okay.
He said a lot of things, or they said a lot of things, but not
You-
sure I caught it
So-
all.
Zinhorn, you're going to want to sit down.
Yeah, so you all are like jostled by the waves created as this thing then just like submerges, and then you feel it like moving underneath the boat and then emerging once again, lifting you up with your boat now caught in the rocks of its shell. And you can see that the now up close that these things that looked like birds that were just like perched on the rocks are also construct birds. And what they do is, in a very unbird-like fashion, they use their wings and talons almost like four legs to crawl over to the edges of the boat and then like lock on, like holding the boat in place.
It's a metal turtle with its own air force.
And then as it is holding you in place there, you hear a sound, and all of a sudden, poof, this thing is taking off at great speed, heading towards the city, like in that direction. And then I think it makes perfect sense to me that all of you would have been paying attention to that rather than looking elsewhere. Anyone want to contradict me there?
No, but I will say out loud, Percival, you might want to vanish or turn invisible if you don't want to go toward the city, because that appears to be where we're going.
He looks at you and says, I will. And he just looks at you like, he's got it handled.
Okay.
I almost feel like don't watch me. If you're
It's
watching me, I
like you're
can't
not
do
the
it.
boss.
Yeah.
You can only turn invisible when you're not looking.
So I think as you are moving now at a relatively high speed, and it's easier on you, Zinhorn, you're not having to row anymore, but also you are all probably like this is a bumpy ride compared to before, like, and you don't have any control at the moment. These construct birds do seem to be pretty effectively holding you in place, so you're not worried about falling off or anything. But as this is going on, you hear a couple of sort of strange whistling shrieks in the distance, and you look back behind you and see flying through the air, coming from another part of the island, are more constructs, 3 of them, that look like somewhat humanoid in shape, except they seem to have 4 arms, 2 enormous, like oversized, almost like gorilla-sized arms, and then 2 smaller ones below that. And these things look like they might be 10, 12 feet tall, and they're obviously also constructs, and they are flying in the air headed straight for you all. And this voice who has identified themselves as Zephyr says, so they're coming. I don't suppose any of you could help us out with that. I mean, otherwise we're just going to have to outrun them and hope the city defenses can pick them off.
You give me a target. I can launch us. Well, no, we're too big. I can't do that. Never mind.
So they're
6x4
bad?
is not big enough.
Well, let me put it this way. I think the morality of the situation is debatable, but they will try to kill us.
Okay, that's enough.
That's bad enough for me.
Let's see.
So these things are in a similar situation. It's not so much that they're much faster than all of you, but they kind of have the angle on you. You're trying to go further, and they're kind of coming from so if we imagine, I didn't make, let me like put a little token just to represent sort of where everyone is on the map here as you move in here. So you guys are this, well, you know, it's not to scale, this little token, as you might imagine. You are about here right now, and they are coming from like this direction, and you're headed this way. So they are, you know, trying to intercept. And I think right now that they are about 500 feet off, but if we wanted to, I think we're not going to be in formal initiative right now, but they are definitely going to start catching up soon.
How many are there?
There's 3.
Okay. I can't do anything 500 feet.
I can start with guiding bolt once they get inside of 120 feet.
Yeah, that's my limit too. I will prepare to cast Eldritch Blast once they're within 120 feet, one
Okay.
at each of them.
Sure. All right. So these things are getting closer and closer. And so let's say then if everyone's kind of trigger point is 120 feet, they have gotten to within 120 feet. They're certainly moving in towards you in an aggressive sort of fashion, like very determined. Like it's not at all unclear that they're trying to catch up with all of you. But they haven't done anything else that you can see yet. But do all of you, that triggers all of your attacks? If so, go ahead and roll them.
All right.
I think Zaylene said she was heading an Eldritch Blast 1 towards each. You want to roll
Mhm.
those?
So 23, 17, and 12.
Okay. The 23 hits. The 17 and
Okay.
12 do not.
Okay.
Go ahead and roll a damage there. All right. 7 force damage. All right. And Zinhorn, you were doing Guiding Bolt?
Yeah, I'm just going to do it at first level for right now.
Okay.
I got a dirty 20.
A dirty 20 will certainly hit.
I've got Psychic Glance that I could use at 120 feet.
Yeah. Another 12 radiant damage. So I will allow you to just decide if that is either the one that Zaylene also hit or not. You can pick. I'll let you just decide.
Yeah, I'll hit the one that Zaylene hit.
Okay.
And that will mean that Lynn has got an easier time of hitting it.
It's an advantage if you are doing something with an attack roll instead of a saving throw.
Right.
So are you doing your Psychic Glance?
Yes.
All right.
It's a 17 intelligence.
Okay, let me roll that. E20. It only rolled a 2 on the die, and so that is going to be a fail even with its bonus.
That is a 21 damage.
Nice.
Psychic damage.
And something else happens to it, right? With that, or is it just the psychic
no,
damage?
I think it's just that.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm. It's half damage on a successful save, but aside from that, yeah, looks like
I
that's it.
thought that was one of the ones where like they're incapacitated for a turn or something.
No.
All right. Sorry, I'm double checking just because. Yeah, it says the target must on a failed save they take 7d6 psychic damage and is incapacitated until the
Oh.
start of your next turn.
Yeah, you're right.
Well,
My
okay.
bad.
I only checked because
know,
I've
my
used
brain
that
didn't
spell
acknowledge
myself
it.
in another game, so I was like, okay,
Yeah.
So I think as that one hits, you watch as that one just suddenly locks up and stops flying, and it just like just crashes into the water, and the other two immediately like start taking like evasive action. Like the first 2 hits, they seemed to just take it. But that one, just as soon as it just like crashes into the water, suddenly the other 2 are like approaching this more like cautiously. And then you hear Zephyr say, "That was great. If they keep following us and get too close, I can use the numbing breath on them. But that's they'd have to get closer than I'd prefer. But we're not too far from the city, and the towers will pick them off if they come in close."
Pretty cool. I've never used that before.
So I think that as you are getting closer to the coast, you're seeing better now that this city, maybe not in terms of total population or land size, it might not quite rival Pashan, but certainly it looks like at its best it rivaled Pashan in, technology and how, the number of buildings and just like the impressiveness, the level of civilization of this city. And yet it is also clear that there are big chunks of it now that are smoking ruins, and that a lot of it seems to be, heavily damaged, as though there has been a lot of warfare here. And as these other two constructs that were pursuing, they backed off a little bit after that last attack, and they are still pursuing. But as you get closer into the city, you watch as two big, strange, arcane towers that are flanking what looks like a set of docks start to, like, arcane light sort of flares up them, creates this little sort of burst at the top, and then pew, pew, and they rocket over your heads, targeting these other two things. One of them hits, the other does not, and then both of those things sort of, they flank off and they abandon their pursuit. And Zephyr says, "Wow, okay. I am doubly glad that I ran into you all, because would not have wanted to take those guys on myself, but also you came from outside. That is a big deal. My boss is going to really want to talk to you."
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on.
And he's kind of coasting to a stop, but as he's sort of moving in towards these docks, you can see that there's activity of the kind that you would expect at a docks. Maybe like you would expect it to be busier in the middle of the day, but there's boats coming in and out of it. But you also see what looks like people assembling there. There's a bunch of people in uniforms. There's kind of a crowd that's being kept off to one side, and you see a few more what look to be constructs of various shapes and sizes, and they seem to be gathering at the dock that you're all heading towards now. And then I think you also just realized that, Percival's gone. He disappeared at some point.
Well, so much for a quiet, stealthy entrance.
It's not what I expected, but it's not exactly what I had feared either.
I mean, so listen, I told you that I would get you to a safe place where we could talk this out, and that is exactly what I'm doing. There is nowhere in this whole island that's going to be safer than where I'm trying to take you. So, if you
Does
just
this mean prison again?
Prison? No. I mean, if anything, you came to the prison, and you might just be the key. So, believe me, this is great. This is great. No one's going to want to hurt you. Believe me.
I wish I hadn't heard all that before.
And are you? I think he says, no, don't worry. It's going to be great. I promise. Right. And again, you're
Insight
still
check.
just hearing this magically amplified, seemingly coming from this construct you're writing.
But I
Yeah,
make
you
an
can make
insight check.
you can make an insight check. I think maybe at disadvantage because, well, you know what? I'm not, instead of rolling at disadvantage because you only hear the voice, I'm just gonna like limit it. You know, you only can get so much from the voice, right? But you
Right,
can roll
right.
regular.
We'll see what
Mhm.
happens.
Yeah.
15.
All right. I think he seems sincerely excited that you're here. Like that's not a put on. He seems genuinely relieved to have been freed from, you know, like that you got y'all free from those other constructs. He seems to like he doesn't you don't get the sense that he's trying to trick you in any way. What he is saying, he believes. That said, you don't necessarily know what his priorities are.
Right.
Well, we're gonna find out.
Um, so I think that as the this giant construct approaches the shore, it suddenly kind of reaches this point where it uses its big flippers to kind of half lift itself up onto a platform near the docks. And you see at a certain point part of what looked like it was just this rock shell kind of like folds out into a strange little fin that has given you like there's it's like a little ramp that you could walk down to the platform, and certainly you're not being rushed or anything, but it's clear that there are a couple of officials in sort of fancy looking uniforms who are flanked by like these constructs that are like pretty basic humanoid in shape. Um, don't look all that different from sequential, but a little bigger, beefier, and certainly demeanor is all business. They're kind of flanking these guys in the fancy uniforms who are clearly like coming to greet you. They're not like rushing it, but also like short of going back into the water, like they are in the path to go to anywhere else from here. So are you walking down the
Yep,
little ramp
I
there?
will go first.
Yep.
Already
Okay.
have my business cards prepared.
Yeah. Uh, and so I think as you are coming down, the head of this big robot turtle kind of extends out of the shell the way that a turtles often will, and then kind of the head sort of bends up at a strange angle, and you see an opening where uh, a young, apparently human man wearing a strange sort of coverall is sitting like in a seat there. And he comes out and he rushes over to all of you with a big smile, shaking your hands. It's like, I'm Zephyr. I'm Zephyr. This is Sheldrake, and he's pointing back at the the big turtle thing, and it's like, I just can't believe my luck running into you, and boy, lucky for all of us that it was me that ran into you instead of those others. So here, look, we've got a reception committee coming for you already. This is a great day. Come on. Let me introduce you. And he's like waving you along.
Gonna follow.
Yeah,
Reserving
All right.
all judgment.
sure.
Yep.
I
Same
trust
here.
nothing.
Mm-hmm. And so these officials in the uniforms um, are approaching, and they look like they don't look excited in the way Zephyr does. They look interested but wary, right? Like this is imagine. I'm trying to think of a good sort of comparison. Well, okay, instead of trying to compare it to anything else, it is just what it is. They look interested but wary. They approach, and the the most fancy dressed one, has the most little like insignias and little patches on his uniform jacket, looks to all of you and just says, "I am Vice President Jeffeths. Am I to understand that all of you came from outside the bubble?"
I will hand him a business card. We investigate trouble.
He does not look like alarmed or anything, but without him needing to give any kind of a signal, one of these constructs that's sort of flanking him reaches forward to take the card instead. Like he doesn't give it any signal. It just, he just doesn't reach his hand out and it does. And it holds it up to its face and he goes, "Interesting. We would very much like to speak to you in greater detail, and as you can see, there has been some chaos in the city of late, but we can take you to a secure location where there will be no worry of further attacks. In the meantime, is there anything that you need in the short term after, apparently, your journey?"
Do you have a library?
He
Fresh
gets a
water
big
and
grin. Is
soap.
like, "Oh yes."
Fresh
Good.
water and soap.
You guys learned nothing. We can't go to the library.
I could still hope.
And so I think there is like one of the other officials kind of gets a look like he's receiving a magical message, and then he whispers to the guy you were just talking to, and he says, it would appear that we will be best served by proceeding quickly. There are other interested parties, as you might imagine. So if we are able to proceed now, we have some carriages, and he points, and you see, like, you are familiar from Pashan, like constructs exist in Pashan, right? Like people make constructs, but part of what was so interesting about sequential is you're not used to constructs having any kind of awareness or independence at all. It's just generally they are machines that do one or maybe a couple of different very basic things, but only the things that they are specifically programmed to do. So there are magical construct carriages that are able to move like at the direction of a driver, but without requiring like a horse or something like that. But he gestures, and there are, what look to be similar sorts of apparatuses. Like they have like a little coach, but it looks like armored and like secured, like it could withstand an attack. And it is powered by magical means, but it doesn't have anything pulling it. It just has its own means of propulsion. And he gestures you inside. When the door is open, you see that it's actually pretty luxuriously appointed inside.
I think Vertigo will draw in the air what looks like a stylized eye
Okay.
and cast Detect Nightmare.
Okay.
I
So,
was just gonna use send message to tell you to do that.
so here's the thing. It is not going to be as soon as you start trying to cast a spell, and I'm not going to prevent you from casting the spell, but you realize that all of these constructs standing by are suddenly on immediate alert. They quickly move to, like, each one of them immediately takes a step forward to be in front of the official that they are flanking. Like, so like they're like taking charge, and they are all pointing like their arms at you, but like nothing else happens while you're casting the spell.
Whoa, whoa. Everybody calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Vertigo, it's everywhere.
Oh boy.
It is. This is like if you turned on your Geiger counter and it just blew up in your hand.
I'm kind of imagining danger goggles and they just go black.
Yeah. Yeah. so it's, I would imagine, yeah, you know what? In fact, go ahead and make just a wisdom saving throw, just for, like, this is, you're wearing night vision goggles and someone just shined a flashlight in your eyes. It's
Is
like,
the,
it's like,
is this a magical effect?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
25.
Okay, only got a natural 20. So yeah, you're able to take it, but nonetheless, it is obvious to you everything you see here is just full of it. It's everywhere. That doesn't necessarily mean that every single person is 100% corrupted. It's just that the level of ambient nightmare energy here is off the charts of what you even knew was possible.
I think after an initial flinch just from the
Mhm.
sheer volume of it, there's just a curious look that comes across Vertigo as he starts to look at everything and look at the ways that it manifests itself and try to figure out if it's any different.
Yeah. So this guy who had identified himself as Vice President Jeffeth kind of steps out from behind this construct that jumped in front of him, and he just says, "I want you all to feel comfortable. I'm taking you to a safe place, and I understand you might not have any reason to trust us. We don't know where you came from or why, but that's what we want to find out. If you, I hope you feel that you can trust us. If not, please let
Well,
us know what we could do to make it better. But with keeping in mind that we potentially will have some degree of conflict if we stay out in the open for too long. Not everyone in the city is on the same side these days."
It's everywhere. Huh.
And Vertigo is just kind of non-responsive, just staring at everything, I think, at this point.
And so, yeah, he says, "So please," and he gestures once again inside this carriage.
Well, after seeing Vertigo's reaction, I'm not super stoked about this, but I'm gonna go in anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I think playing
Keep up
along is the
appearances.
best.
Yeah, it's nice in there. Plush seats. There's like a little cart that looks like it has like a crystal decanter of something, probably expensive, and some little glasses. And it's nice in there.
It's
Yeah,
made
but
of
what's the
nightmares. I
cost to
don't
get
like
out?
it.
But what's the cost to get out?
Yeah,
It's
that's
free
a
to
good
get
question.
in.
Yeah. So does everyone get in?
I think Vertigo's very herdable. Like, he's not really.
Yeah, I'm gonna help
Stop.
him.
The biggest thing is, like, we get inside the cart and you see those glasses. He picks up glasses and just starts staring at everything up close and kind of trying to figure out what the difference is, if there is anything.
So I think what you like with that initial rush advance, like you can start to recognize that things like ordinary mundane objects might have kind of like residual radiation sort of thing on them, but that doesn't mean they're emanating it. Like there's no energy, just residue, if that makes any sense. But certainly the people and certainly all the constructs are just glowing with it. So once everyone gets in, I think you all take your seats on the very nice plush upholstered seats, and the Vice President Jeffeths and his construct get in alongside you, and the door closes and the carriage rolls away, and I think that is where we will end tonight's session.
Oh,
See,
my
we're
skin is just
never
crawling.
free again.
But also, yay, we made it.
Yeah, you did it. You made it
didn't
to
die
dinner
yet.
there. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening and or watching, and we will be back for more adventure on so many levels.
Oh, many
many
little
levels.
glowy death particles.
Nightmares everywhere.
Creepiness.